Latin American boom. The Latin American boom represents the first literary movement that emerged from Latin America that aroused worldwide. The context and the narrative time from the boom to make possible in Latin America, there were several factors that had to be in place. The writers were from different countries. They weren't linked by any thematic intention or style. What discusses these countries was the effort to renew the literature that was written in Spanish because they wanted to find an identity as Latinos. The authors of the boom movement were influenced by Americans and Europeans. Julio Cortázar, for example, translated some Edgar Allan Poe's works. The 1960s was the era in which many readers emerged. This was due to the Latin American entering into a consumer society and the middle class becoming stronger. The sale of books increased significantly and the readers started to read more coveted books. Editors took a really important role in this movement. A new journalistic criticism was created and then different cultural magazines were made. The changes in the sociological articulation of the literary practice led to changes in the Latin American publishing scene. There were creations of new and border audiences, and the resurgence of the publishing industry in Spain increased the forms of distribution. There's a really important factor in the Latin American boom movement, which is the time management. This is the way that time is handled in the narrative. It's not the same as the one that we use every day. There's two types. One that is the outer time, that is chronological. It can be measured by a clock, which runs in a linear way. But there's the inner time, where we can express each event within every feeling and experience what we have performing that event. We can distinguish these two times in our life, one that is measurable time and we can know it objectively, and the other gives us the feeling that time goes slower or faster depending on our mode. Literature has made use of the advantage of time to make changes in work so that we can experiment with new trends. The most typical examples of writers who make these games are Juan Rulfo and Pedro Páramo.
Some characteristics of the Latin American boom are that the name boom is the sound of an explosion, a name that came thanks to the increase of marketing this movement had. Some important writers are Julio Cortázar, Carlos Fuentes, Gabriel García Márquez, and Mario Vargas Llosa. The authors got to sell a lot of books. The narrative is the favorite genre to write. The reality is represented in a fantastic way. Magical realism appears, in which fantasy is like a normal thing. They use narratives like multiple narrators, interior monologue, and time management. They use original and innovative words. The text can be more funny than solemn at times.
In the Latin American boom, we have different works that represents this movement. One of these is Where the Air is Clear by Carlos Fuentes. It's a work that describes a city, in this case, Mexico City. Then, the next one is 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia. This is about of the Buendía family, where everything happens throughout the years. This work explains the life of a family, okay? So, the next and the last is Hopscotch. This is a novel that talks about the intellectual life of Horacio Olivera, first in Paris and then in Argentina.